This is rental car number 98, and today I'm driving the 2018 Ford F-150 XLT. Now, there is a ton of trim levels for the Ford F-150. I went to the Ford website, and I think I counted 35 in total. So let's be a little bit more specific about this one. So the XLT is the trim level. This is also the 4x4. It has the EcoBoost technology in it. It's the Super Crew Cab, so the largest extended cab model that Ford offers on the F-150, and it has the 5.5-foot box, which is another way of saying it's got a 66-inch bed in the back of the truck. So put that all together, and we have a vehicle that MSRPs for around $42,000. So let's jump in by popping the hood, taking a look at what's underneath, so you can see what you get for 42 grand when you spend it on a Ford pickup. So this is the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 engine. It comes with an electronic 10-speed transmission that has a bunch of options on it. You can switch between tow and haul mode, snow and wet, Eco Select, and Sport modes, all by pressing a button on the gear shift. As I mentioned before, this is the 4x4 option, so it's an additional about 4 grand for that. And it kicks out at about 325 horsepower, and you get 5,000 pounds of towing capacity. All that put together gets you some okay gas mileage, considering this is a rather large pickup. 19 miles per gallon in the city, 24 on the highway with a 23-gallon fuel tank. So right now gas is about $3.05 a gallon by me. That means you can fill this thing up for about $70, which isn't too bad. You also get Ford's Easy Fuel system, so there's no twist-off cap, and that fuel cap is located on the driver's side of the vehicle. Alright, so that's a lot of information, but what does it really mean in real-world driving scenarios? Well, first off, I found the turning radius on the F-150 to be pretty decent, especially considering how large this vehicle is. Also, the handling is pretty nice. You have some pretty huge tires on this thing, so it really does hug the road well, and going around corners feels really comfortable. I think the thing that's most exciting about this truck is really the acceleration. I typically go to an abandoned weigh station off the interstate, pull up to the stop sign right here and slam down on the accelerator, and you can see that this thing hauls pretty fast, especially considering how large it is and that it's a pickup truck. It's actually a lot of fun to drive. I think I really like it because you sit so high up on the road, so you are towering above all the other cars, but all in all, this thing is pretty fun to drive, so I highly recommend taking it out for a spin. Alright, so there's a lot of amenities to talk about, so let's jump in the vehicle so I can show you around. First off, I do want to mention that I'm 6 feet tall, and I still have to take quite a big step and jump in to get inside this thing. It really is that high off the ground. Anyway, here's the key fob for the truck. 3 buttons on the front, really nothing on the back. Pretty simple design, which I like. It doesn't have a lot of weight to it. I typically like my key fobs a little heavier, so that's really my only complaint here. It does have a flip-out key. It's not actually a true key fob. And because you have a key, you have to insert it in the ignition where you'd expect it, to the right of the steering wheel, to start the car up. Alright, now that we have the car on, we can take a look at the steering wheel setup. On the left-hand side, you have some buttons to interact with the center display and the gauge cluster. Below there, you have your cruise controls. On the right-hand side of the steering wheel, you have controls that interact with the display in the console in the center of the vehicle. You also have buttons below there to interact with your phone. The gauge cluster is a little bit simplistic, but I think that's appropriate for a truck like this. You just have 2 big gauges and then kind of a small screen in the center to show you a little bit of information about the vehicle. The gear shift is also located up here by the steering wheel. It's fairly easy to click through all the gears, and there's a button on top of that gear shift that lets you switch between drive modes. And we talked about this when we looked at the actual engine itself. But there are a number of different ones that you can cycle through, including towing, sport mode, eco mode, etc. Shifting your gaze over to the left of the steering wheel, you have all your standard controls over here, your window controls, mirror controls. A little bit down below, you have the door locks located right here. And then up on the dash, you have the controls to adjust the headlights. And then below there, you have your electronic parking brake. I kind of thought this was a weird spot to put the parking brake, and because of that, I didn't find myself using it too often. But it is located here, and it does seem to work just fine. And since we're on this side of the vehicle, I just want to point out the door handle, or I guess the latch to open up the vehicle. It's not your traditional latch. It's this, well, I don't know how to explain it, but essentially you have to pinch the door handle and the latch together in order to release the door and open it back up. Took me a couple tries to get used to it, but afterwards, it works fine. No problems at all. I also want to talk briefly about the side view mirrors. Blindside detection is available for an additional option, but this truck didn't come with it. Instead, you get a nice cutout in the upper left-hand corner to give you a little bit more visibility around the truck. Really like this a lot. It's easy to use, and well, it's located on both mirrors, which is a nice added bonus. All right, so let's keep going. So if you shift your gaze upwards, you'll see that there's a large sunglass holder up here along with lights to illuminate the cabin. You also get a standard rear view mirror with no bells and whistles. So there's no garage door opener or automatic dimming feature here, just a standard rear view mirror. Down below there, you get a nice storage cutout that I found really convenient to use. It's just a great spot to keep things. So I put my sunglasses, my toll pass, all kinds of things here. And it's deep enough so things aren't going to slosh out if you hit a tight corner. It really is super convenient. And then down below there, you get your center display. This is a little bit small, but that's okay for me. I mean, this is a truck, so it should be a little bit rugged. It's not a touchscreen, although you do get dedicated buttons pretty much everywhere around the display, so it's pretty easy to navigate through all the entertainment features. Below there, you find your climate controls. I found these to work really well. I like that there's nice big dials and that this is centrally located, so it's easy to reach. Honestly, I was able to get this car to a really convenient temperature pretty quickly, even though it was about 93 outside the day I drove this truck. And then down below the climate controls, you do get a USB port, a power port, and then below there, well, this is probably an ashtray, but it is a larger ashtray, so it can fit things like a larger cell phone like mine, so that's convenient. I also brushed past this before, but up top, kind of to the right-hand side, there is another 12-volt power port. That's an added plus, because it is nice to have multiple ports if you need to charge your devices. Alright, so if you look down towards the floor, you'll find that you have two cup holders down here, along with a small cutout in between that you can use to store some change. Underneath where your center seat passenger would sit, there's also an additional storage bin on down here, which is nice and convenient. And then if you lower down the backrest for the center seat, there's also an additional storage space down in here, so you can store some additional items. And then on top of that, you get some additional cup holders and a small cutout that's pretty much perfect to store a cell phone. I found this to be really convenient because it has a little bit of a groove around it, so your phone's not going to slip off while you're driving around. Alright, since we're talking storage, let's close things out by talking about the glove box. It's a nice big size. You have several sort of storage areas built in, kind of like shelves. So I think you can get a lot of stuff in here if you want to. Alright, so that's pretty much all the major highlights of the front seat. Let's jump in the back seat so you can take a look at what kind of amenities your passengers are going to get a chance to enjoy. First off, leg room back here is pretty abundant. I'm 6 feet tall and I still had, 6 to 8 inches of room between my knees and the back of the front seats. That's nice. I also really like that these back seats fold upwards so you can kind of clear out the space and make room to store some larger items back here. Folding these seats up and then back down is really simple. It really doesn't take any effort at all, which is a really nice feature. I also want to mention that on the back of the front seats, you do get some small pockets that are built into the fabric to store some additional items. On the back of the center armrest for the front seat passengers, you do have two cup holders and a fold-down kind of shelf system. Power port that's going to require an adapter. And then kind of towards the floor, you also have two USB ports to charge some of your gadgets. Also, and I think kind of most importantly, the car seat anchors back here are really shallow, so it's super easy to install a car seat. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when auto manufacturers bury these deep in the seat and make it really tough to install a car seat. But that's not a problem with the F-150, thankfully. Alright, so I know it's not a lot, but that is all the major highlights of the back seat. Let's close things out by taking a look at the bed in the very back of this truck. I mentioned this before, but I want to sort of emphasize it. This is the Super Crew Cab, so you get a 5.5 foot box. That means you only get 66 inches of length back here. I think it's plenty, but if you're buying a truck to haul some larger items, you might want to look elsewhere. This one also has the Duraliner bed liner. I took a look around and I couldn't find any major cracks or nicks, so it looks like it's fairly tough. There's also 4 hooks on the 4 corners of the bed to help you tie things down, which is nice. All in all, I'm pretty impressed with the space back here. The wheel wells do infringe on the area ever so slightly, but you still get a lot of usable storage space back here to haul some things around. To close things out, I want to mention that you do get a full spare. It's tucked all the way underneath the truck itself. I did not take it off. I wish I had, because some people have told me recently that it's kind of a pain in the butt to get undone. But I'll leave that up to you. Anyway, That's all for now for the 2018 Ford F-150 XLT. I'm going to keep going. 4x4 with EcoBoost, Super Crew Cab with a 5.5-inch box, and this one comes in Oxford White. It's quite a bit. Anyway, I really enjoyed driving this one. I got to spend 3 days with this truck, and it's a little sad to let it go. So after all that time, I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Look, this is a great pickup. If you're a Ford fan, you're going to love it. I think I prefer the Ram 1500. Not sure why. I think it's just a personal preference, but there's nothing wrong with this truck. I would gladly drive it again. Anyway, that's it for now. Please leave a comment below and let me know what you think, especially if you think I got something wrong. And thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. I'll see you then.